Hello, everybody.
What's up?
How
What's up? Welcome back.
how you doing, Jaquan?
I'm good, girl. How are you?
I'm doing good. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Dom.
And I'm Jaquan, and welcome back to Murderous Friends.
Yes, yes. So, today's case.
So I guess before we get into the case, like have you ever gone through a situation like you may have met a family friend or a family member, you just remembered it from a young age and then learned of them doing like some crazy or being involved in like a crazy type of ordeal as you grew up?
The I mean, the only thing I can think of is I do have a cousin who's serving time for I don't even know the charge, but I know it's a lot of years. And growing up, he was not like that. So I don't even believe the stuff that they say about him is true because that's not who I knew growing up. So it was like night and day to me.
And then, uh, I guess that is a little bit different. What year were you born in?
92.
I was born in '91, so my uncle had this best friend named Toriano back in the day. They were really like really close friends. He used to be at the house all the time. And I think just for us as kids, he just maybe got on our nerves more because he was my uncle's friend and he just was like always there. So I thought he was weird, but I just think it was just kind of that thing of that. But fast forward to I growing up, I've learned of him like getting in a lot of trouble, going for some things, like hitting. And then I know back in 2016 or 2017 that he had ended up going to prison or whatever for attempted murder for trying to kill his girlfriend. Granted,
Um,
long history of things that I've known of him going through the years, but last year when I saw the story trending on Facebook being about the woman Beverly Parker being killed back in '97, and when they got to mention their names, I was like, oh shit, that's Toriano's mom apparently. So imagine all this going on around me, like at I was like, what, 6 at the time
um,
of that his mom had got murdered and everything. So I think that it's a good way to kind of segue into this case of him finding his mom dead in the kitchen.
yes. And what you were saying is he was just kind of weird. He didn't have those aggressive tendencies. You didn't notice anything like that about him back when he was always through the house or whatever.
When this happened, he was like 17. I think it was just like he had our uncle annoyed us. So I think it was just more so weird to us, but I didn't really see like aggressive behavior tendencies at that point in time.
So that takes us right into our story. Today we are talking about Miss Beverly Parker. She was a 47-year-old who lived in our hometown, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
And it is a tragic case and to this day is still unsolved.
Apparently, we are the city of cold cases.
So just jumping right on into it, Miss Beverly, as everybody described her, she was a nice woman. She was a church going woman. She kept to herself for the most part. She was a mother of two. Like you mentioned, her son Toriano, and then she also had a daughter. What was the daughter's name?
Shun was it Chantel?
Chantel. Yeah, so at this time, Toriano was a teenager and her daughter Chantel was an adult. And just jumping right into it, Toriano comes home from all night skating. You remember all night skating?
Yeah, okay, listen, folks dropping their kids off about a good 7:30, 8 o'clock. Ain't gotta pick them back up till 6 a.m.
So 6 a.m., like I vividly remember going to all night skate. Now I don't remember ever staying till 6 a.m., but I can remember about the 2, 3 a.m. point. I would curl up on them little circle benches and be knocked out until my ride was there. Like I could not hang. But anyway, long story short, Toriano comes home from the all night skating party to a devastating scene. He finds his mother dead in the kitchen, no, in the living room, excuse me, in a pool of her own blood. Wild, right? So, according to detectives, they Miss Beverly Parker was ambushed from behind. She never saw the person coming, and they stabbed her 25 times. Small, shallow stabs. They They said it was very similar to, like, if someone was being shanked, so, like, very shallow little wounds. None of these wounds killed her, but they did make her weak and like she was down at this point. Footprints in the blood leading from the kitchen back and forth, it showed that this person came back 2, 3 times, right? So the first time they stabbed her about 23 times, and then they went and got a bigger knife and stabbed her 5 more times. 'Cause total, it was 28 stab wounds. She still wasn't dead after all of this. Ain't that crazy? Like, it's giving overkill. It's giving when I first heard that the weapon was a knife, the first thing I thought was, "This is intimate. This is rage. This is someone is really upset with this woman." For you to stab somebody and then stab them 28 times is crazy.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like a crime of passion or something because from the case they discussed how nothing was stolen, there was no forced entry or anything, so it definitely had to be somebody close or some kind of, crime of passion.
Yeah, the detective said that it was one of the most brutal crimes that he had ever seen. So that says a lot, even in itself. And this was in 1997. So that's crazy. So fast forward, this person has stabbed her a total of 28 times. She's still not dead. She's still clinging to life. And they must notice that she's not gone, right? So the last and final blow, they go into the kitchen and they grab a skillet. From different videos that I've watched, some of them just say it was a skillet, but one video in particular said it was a cast iron. And if you know anything about cast iron, you know that's a big, heavy skillet.
Real
So
heavy.
okay, real heavy. So the last and final blows was to Miss Beverly Parker's head, and they hit her in the head with this frying pan until she was dead. And that just kinda blew me away, like, y'all really was trying to take this lady out, like, it was wild just reading that.
Personal.
So, very personal. So, Toriano's alibi checked out, he was at the all-night skating all night, so boom, he's no longer a suspect. But, just rewind a little bit, because the detectives are a little confused, Toriano's not it, the daughter don't live in the house, who coulda done this to Miss Beverly, right? So they're looking a little bit into her history and they realize that not only was Miss Beverly a church going lady, she also had a little bit of scandal in her too.
A little.
A little bit of scandal in her, okay?
Girl.
Maybe a lot of scandal because this part also blew my mind. Her daughter Chantel got married to this man. They never mentioned that man's name, the first man's name. But come to find out, she was having an affair with her daughter's husband. Boom, that relationship ends. I'm sure they're not on good terms, whatever. Daughter Chantel gets married again. This time she marries John Grant. And guess what Miss Beverly do? Have an affair with him too. Girl,
The crazy thing about that was the fact that the about the first husband wasn't even revealed until they had to come back. They came back and interviewed until again. When they were interviewing other people, they were talking about kind of like this distorted thing of what was going on. But to this case specific, because what was in it? John, what was his last
John
name?
Grant.
John Grant. Yeah, he was a suspect.
Huh?
He was a suspect as well because he was sleeping with her, but it wasn't until later, the years later, when they started trying to investigate again, it was given a history of like, when Chantel was like, well, she's pretty much slept with every man I've been with before. And I'm just like, girl, what the fuck?
Like what
Uh,
type of time were you on? Like who was she feeling like?
so
Honey. So, like you said, John Grant was a suspect because detectives found out about the affair. So he drops a bomb and he says that he told Chantel about it, and her response was, "Oh, I've got to go back and finish the job." Something along those lines. Girl, what is you saying? Is that a confession? It kinda sound like a confession to me because she ends it with, "'Cause she'll talk." She'll talk? Okay. All right. All right. So, I I how did they rule out John as the killer?
He brought up something in relationships. He tried to pin it on the daughter. He
On
tried
the
to pin
daughter,
it on her.
yes, yes, because of that statement. So, but then also, this was back in '97. Time goes on, the case goes cold, and they go back and re-interview suspects. In 2025, they caught up with John Grant, and he wasn't doing so hot. He was homeless, and he showed signs of some kind of mental illness or maybe even drug dependency. So he didn't even have the wherewithal to recount the facts of the story. So now he's in the category of unreliable witness.
He also admitted to him basically running from the law,
Mhm.
and that's why because they called him down in Georgia, but he never really gave where he was. They called him. He said that he was out, but when they were asking him where he was, he was not trying to answer that. So I
Yeah,
mean that kind of put light on him more as as a suspect in a sense, but because of the history of the mother and daughter relationship, that's how they ended up just making her basically number one suspect.
right.
Now, um, they also talked about the fact that Beverly changed the will or changed the beneficiary to just Toriano to get it. So when she got
Yes,
killed, that was another thing that they were trying to find out if that was a motivating factor. But they both said Toriano stated as well that think well the sister didn't know about being removed as beneficiary until
right.
after the fact. But he got $80,000 from it. And again, I as a kid, I just knew that he had came into some money. Didn't know it had came from. I didn't know anything about his mom. I just know like around that time when he had turned 18, because he was 17 at the time. And I know that him and my uncle continued to be friends and stuff through the years. And so I just know that he just went from one day looking one way to the next day. It was just like, oh, now new shoes and new car and all these things. I didn't know that, his mom had been killed and this where his money had come from. But um I can see how people can see as that been a motivating factor if
Yeah.
they would have known prior to the case. But from his story, and that's one thing that has remained consistent through the years, was that they were stating that they didn't know. She didn't know that
Mm.
the beneficiary things. Also, Chantel spoke up and said that she told everybody she knew she wasn't going to get anything in the world. So,
Mm.
what would be her
Yeah,
reason for needing to kill her mom if she knew she
right.
wasn't going to get any money from it?
And then another mitigating factor to this whole case is Chantel wrote a letter to her godmother, and she wrote out in detail how she was gonna kill her mother.
Yeah, that said
It
shit. I will
wasn't
kill her.
no, I just hate her, I want to kill her. No, she detailed how she was gonna kill her mother. But to your point, I feel like if she knew nothing about being taken out of the will and she already had this notion that she wasn't getting anything anyway, especially due to their history, why would she kill her? Especially if the will was the motivating factor. That don't make a whole lot of sense to me.
But
But
I don't want to take. So I just think that it's not to say that she definitely isn't a reason to be a suspect, but motive, I mean, who's this? Again, we don't know what's the truth. I do know Toriano, maybe it came from the stuff that happened to his mom, but I just know that he has not been a really good person through the years, right? So who's to
right,
say that this may be a lie that may have, could have been a knowing about the situation of coming into the money. Because again, he had a history of already, he had battered his mom and put his mom in the hospital before.
yeah,
Right, so that's why he was also being looked at as a suspect at first. Now he said that he had went into counseling, and that's how him and his mom's relationship became better. But like a year or two prior to '97, he had beat his mom and put her in the hospital.
real bad.
So
Yeah.
pinpoint my kids.
Yeah.
That was with the what was she, the sister-in-law? I think she had spoke up and
The
said that
sister-in-law. Yep.
um, that she had already had some. So if something was to happen to her, then it would definitely be probably one of the kids. But in
Mm.
thinking of a statement like that, it kind of puts it to mind like, who's to say that this wasn't a way of working together, right? In
Yeah.
the sense of like, not to say that siblings don't have beef, but usually a sibling may have beef, but I'm gonna still look out for you type of ordeal. So if I know
Yeah.
you've been taken, been beneficiary, I'm not going to just leave you out here with nothing.
High and dry, right? But then another thing, remember how we were mentioning how Miss Beverly was a church-going woman, all of the things. after her pastor learned of her passing, he goes to give his condolences to Chantel, and she goes and says she got what she deserved. So that was wild. Like, you are just out here being reckless. Like, if you were a suspect, why would you say something like that?
But if I'm not mistaken, in reference to the church, I think they did say she was at church going, but then they say she stopped going at some point, like she had stopped going to church. So I'm wondering if, because now I don't have a strong church background, but one thing I do know about a church is to be judgmental. Who's to say that they didn't burn her? Because they said, well, she wasn't doing anything really but working because she was working at Lincoln Life.
Lincoln Life Insurance. Mhm.
Yeah, and so it got to a point they said she was just working and going home, and her friends would come over to like play cards and stuff like that. But it
What
and
games did they play in '97? Spades, bridge,
I mean, maybe a little pity pat. I mean, little tonk,
a little
something that
Tom?
you something that only required 3 people to play because it didn't seem
Yeah.
like she had, like, a lot of people that she hung around per se, but, you know, we know in our communities when something happens one way, it spreads quickly.
Mhm.
It's the point that I'm making, so it seemed like the kids had motive, and then, who's to say that John wasn't trying to keep his wife and was like, "Well, I'll kill your mom for you because you absolutely this and this."
Yeah.
Again, a crime of passion. It's just it's so many fingers pointing to everywhere else. But I mean, how would you feel if you found out that your parent or just a family member or all was sleeping with your spouse?
Now, I don't think that's a "Imma kill you" type of offense, but we definitely no contact
Oh yeah.
forever and ever. Yeah, 'cause out of the billions of people on Earth, why would you pursue my person? And then not only once, twice, or however many times it happened outside of what was reported, you know what I mean?
It's okay. And then it's in the sense of like this is supposed to be the very person that always protects you.
Mhm.
Right, and you're supposed to always feel safe, but I mean, that has to put her in this space, but I agree with the detectives, it still doesn't warrant for you to take someone's life, but it just gets tricky because there seems to be a distorted history with this just with the mom overall, even Toriano. You never wanna shame the victim, but it's kind of like to a point of, like, something pushed somebody to this, and it had to be somebody close again. There
Yeah.
was no signs of forced entry, there was no foul play type of ordeal. It had to be somebody that they knew, and that's probably why they did it from behind.
So in my mind, with Toriano having that alibi, I don't see him as a suspect, even given the history of him putting her in the hospital, like, just in my mind, right? But the husband, John Grant, and the daughter, Chantel Grant Stacy, because it came up that John Grant said that he stopped by to see Miss Parker that night, and she was down and hurt and stabbed up. And he said he had 2 active warrants, so he had to peace out. So he couldn't be anywhere near that crime scene, any kind of connections to that in being found at the scene. So that right there is an admission that you were there. So that
So,
puts a lens on him for me.
I can understand that literally my next question I was gonna ask you, who's the biggest one suspect here? I don't wanna leave Toriano off because granted this was like 28 years ago, as of last year when they, revisiting this case for 28 years. So yeah, some details might not be the same, but one thing we know is that All Night Skate has always ended at 6 a.m., right? And
Mhm.
if you did not leave, my uncle, they went back and interviewed my uncle, and from my understanding, he had told them that they were there until 6 a.m. If you go back to listen to when they interviewed Tori, I know he said that he contacted his mom or whatever, was trying to contact her around 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. or
Mm.
whatever, and that was the whole thing. So for me, there's still a whole chunk of time left out in between, the thing. So not to say that you had enough time to leave out, because again, the dad took them out there, and if I'm not, I don't believe that they had a car or whatever to really be getting around at that time. But those things can leave a little doubt. But really, the story didn't differ much. I can see why they may have just concluded him to not be it. But and it's not to point fingers or anything, but what Toriano is locked up for right now is trying to kill somebody within the same
Yeah,
manner as well as mom was killed.
yeah,
Stabbed several times.
yeah. Because the obvious suspect here is Chantel. I feel like all the history gives motive, so she's the obvious target. But it can't be that cut and dry.
not when it's that obvious. I mean, sometimes, yeah, it's right there in your face. But for me, I just think with this, it's too much of, yes, it's easy for the ex-husband to point the finger at the wife and be like, she did it because they have this history. Yes, we did have dealings with one another. But again, that I don't know. In my mind, who I would think that the number one suspect would probably be John. And just for me, it's because of the fact of you're stuck in the middle, and I think that the outing could have possibly been, let me try to get my wife back and knowing that I fucked up and maybe this
Mhm.
is my way into it because this ain't her first time. So I'm pretty sure, granted, we found out about it later on that the mom had been dealing with her daughter's husbands or boyfriends in the past. I'm sure she shared that with her second husband.
Yeah,
And let's be clear,
for
niggas gonna be
sure,
niggas. He probably learned about that beforehand and probably like, well, shit,
and did
if
it
mama was
anyway.
doing it before, let me go ahead and just, get a piece too. Right. And for me, just why he seems like much of a suspect because you flew. I mean, granted, Chantel don't live before Wayne no more either.
Las
But
Vegas, she dipped.
but at least they were able to find her. She might have said she
Mhm.
didn't give a damn. She hope her mama was burning in hell, but she still
Yeah,
the one thing that ain't changed about her, she don't give a fuck. She hated her mama. And not to
but
say that is warranted, but it's like
So I
the
don't
hate
see
ain't
her
changed.
as a suspect because it's so obvious, but then again, looking back on her statements, the police interview her and they're telling her to look around the house and is anything missing? And she points out the fact that the skillet is missing. How would you know that?
Yes, and that's what keeps her number one suspect is
Mhm.
because of the talking too much. The only people who should know these details are the killers and the police.
Mm,
Which also, for me, kind of why I still kind of think that John may be it. Because if you did this for her, she might have put him up to him, but he shared the details.
yeah.
Um,
It could be both of them, but they
I
didn't
mean,
release
yeah.
details about like shoe size, footprint, shoe size, anything. Was that all consistent? Was it multiple different tread marks in the blood? Like,
Especially since they drugged the woman with 3 times across, like they drug her from the kitchen.
yeah. And then
So
stabbed with 2 different weapons and then with a front. So, like, did he have one of the knives and then she took a knife and got a couple turns in? Like, it's given that they did it together.
yeah, I definitely feel like I mean, granted, all signs point to the daughter, but I think that as far as who actually did you think John was the one, especially with the story change between from the time that you claim that you had went there earlier and then you didn't see anything. Kind of the same thing like happened with the last case Chanterica that we talked about, lying after you had committed some shit.
Yep.
You know,
And
um,
to me, it seemed like how he ended up either with this mental illness or this drug dependency, that guilt ate him up. Over all of these years, it just ate him
mhm.
up and he couldn't handle it anymore. So he turned to substances or he just lost his mind.
And it seems like that may have been a fallout thing from everything. Like even with Toriano, like he's been accused, and there's stories of many things from him abusing children of his, abusing the
Oh,
women that he's been with. They have been allegations of him molesting people, younger women, and things of that nature. So, and not to say that this makes it an excuse, but could you imagine going through something so traumatic like this of walking in and finding your mother than being a suspect? I don't know how I would feel or what I would be able to do in a situation, but it's not to take away from the fact that I can understand him being a suspect at a sense because as the years going, you got to think about 28 years, you've done a lot of shit, and
yeah,
then now here we are, come 2017, here again you've attempted to kill your girlfriend within showing some of the same things that happened to your mother. And for me,
yeah,
honestly, I was shocked that they didn't correlate the 2. They didn't mention that when they were
yeah.
talking about it because it seems like in the tunnel vision and in no sense, it seems like they're just so focused on Chantel and
Mhm.
exposing the history of what you do. And by all means, not right for Beverly to be over here busting it open to this woman's husbands or whatever the case is by far. But I feel like because of those details, they were already so gun ho and Chantel had the number one
Right.
motivating factor.
Right.
And I don't think they would take it into account. So I guess my question more so is, do you think that they did this investigation right, whether if it was originally in '97? Because to go from '97 to it not being discussed again until 2025 is crazy.
I personally think that, like you said, they just had tunnel vision on Chantel. So they pushed aside all other suspects. I feel like there wasn't a thorough investigation done because why don't we have details about what kind of shoes were? Because, normally you watch CSI, they got tread marks, they're running it through databases. And granted, maybe the technology wasn't that up to date in 97, but it's gotten up to date by 2025. So why was there no mention of tread marks? Why is there no mention of all of these little details, fingerprints, forensic evidence? There's no mention of that. It's just like, oh, Chantel and her mom had this heated rivalry over these men, so it was her.
Yeah. I agree. You got a lot of pictures, and I even think of you can tell they're gonna hit, but we don't know if she saw who it was. We don't even know
Mhm,
if this may have been an argument, and mama might have been trying to walk away, right?
mhm,
You never know what this was that led to this. And let's be clear, we're both from Fort Wayne. Going off of Fort Wayne evidence, and this was in '97. They probably didn't give a fuck about this black woman. Like, granted, they had talked about this was one of the worst they've seen, but Fort Wayne has a lot of cold cases, and a lot of them deal with black people. Black person has
mhm.
been coming up missing or they're murdered, and they just don't care. And I think in this is once those details being released of the mother doing things, they probably just said, "Fuck it, who cares?" This
Yep.
is a dramatic ass family, and so I think that with this cold justice episode, they did a
Mhm.
really good job of piecing back what they had, re-interviewing, kind of seeing what matched up. And I can understand again why their still number one suspect is
Chantel.
Chantel, because here we are 28 years later, and here you are just saying, fuck it. I hope she's burning in hell. And
Yeah.
then you go into this whole crying episode, and like, well, I wouldn't want this to happen to anybody. Like now you really making
It's
yourself seem
giving
like so
guilty.
yeah.
Yeah.
So mom, I mean, Chantel she might not have done it by herself, but that's definitely think Jonathan is number one suspect for me because you just get ghost.
Yeah.
And you try to stay away. You don't want to tell these people. You don't want to talk about it and all of this. And your story changed throughout. And
You're
even if you did it for you want to keep the pussy at home or whatever the case is, here we are. I mean, I just we all know how men are, like in the
yeah.
sense, especially if you know you fucked up. We good for we'll try to do anything to keep home. And
Right.
it just seems like and if not, and if he may not be, he could be completely innocent, but he's definitely not made himself look good through the years of that.
Mhm. The fact of the matter is, though, with this case, all of the evidence is circumstantial, no matter who they try to pin it on. No matter who
Yeah.
they try to tie the evidence to, all of the people involved have been through the house, so their DNA is gonna be there. All of the people have a personal relationship with Beverly Parker, so it could be any of the people, and
Okay.
that's why it's kept still cold 29 years later.
And it's definitely all circumstances because even how they feel about her, there's nothing they can do. They even said that at the end of this. And I think that's also why I wanted to talk about the investigation itself because it comes to cases like this, you really don't have much detail. You don't
Yeah.
really have much more detail or insight unless you may know the family or know some things like that.
Mhm.
But it's just like it just didn't even seem like people care. And we definitely go through this thing in our communities of being black, what happens at home stays at home. So I don't even think that just imagine being Chantel and having to go through not telling nobody that your mama been sleeping with your minister throughout the year. And I just think that it's unfortunate because I've already had to endure going through that trust and it hurt back then. And now when she died, like, yeah, in a sense I was probably relieved. But also, me being relieved or me having my true feelings is putting me in a predicament where we have to be number one suspect. And yeah, granted,
Right.
I've been free for all these years, but I'm never mentally going to be free of that, especially if I'm innocent.
Right.
I'm never going to be free of it because I have to deal with that. And I'm definitely not giving her no offer say that she might not. But for me, it doesn't seem like, just in my mind, honestly, this doesn't seem like a one person crime.
Right. I Yeah, soon as I heard about the multiple trips, I'm like, it had to be more than one person. It had to be more than one person. The multiple weapons, the multiple trips, the dragging her back and forth, like, yeah, for me, it was John and Chantel, and they did it together. So, do you think that with current technology, with it being 2026 going into 2027 here soon, will they ever solve this case, you think?
I'm not even yeah, I don't see this case being solved because they're not gonna care. Some of these cases are only highlighted for the entertainment thing, and I think just was this having the value of the mother sleeping with the daughter's kids, I think. So I don't think that they were gonna come back and circle this. But
Yeah.
they were even talking about well, we're gonna try to close this out. There ain't even no statute of limitations on this case.
No.
And for me, you just you're just trying to rush it out, trying to bring it up, and it's like literally at the end, all y'all said was, yeah, she is a suspect. We already knew she was a suspect. She was number one
Right.
suspect for all these years. There, thank you for shining light on little Fort Wayne, Indiana, and letting
Right.
folks know that we got all these cold cases going on up here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it opens up the door for many more things to get solved. But for me, I just feel like it's never going to get solved truly because don't nobody care. They just feel like it's family drama. With black folks, we like to sweep shit up under the rug. What happens at home stays at home.
Stays at
And
home.
like Toriano is in prison for God knows how long for shit that he's done.
Yeah.
We'll never really know what happened in this case as far as in my mind, the number one suspect is John and his ass is out of here.
Yeah.
He don't want to be found.
Yeah. He flying by the seat of his pants right now. So, and Chantel then moved to Las Vegas, got her a new husband. One thing about her, honey, she gonna get her a new man.
She gonna keep him in. She go- but I guess she said shit. She ain't got to work with her mama sleeping with her no more. So shit.
So, yeah.
But imagine not only losing your mother and what that does to you for the rest of your life. She's probably distrusted in women overall. Like, bitch, I couldn't trust my
Yeah.
mama around my parents. Uh, Tori, moving on to all these horrible things that he has done to people for years and done about missing. So honestly, none of the three suspects look good.
Right.
They don't. John just makes the most sense.
Yeah. Honestly, especially with him saying he was there. That told me everything I need to know. Yeah. Cause what if it was a thing where he was there and Chantel came over and caught him in the act type deal? It could be anything. We just don't know. The only people that know are the people that was there. And they tight-lipped about it. One, then lost his mind. Two, Chantel, she done moved on. She doing her thing. And Toriano, sad
He done
story,
lost his goddamn mind too.
he in prison for Lord
He
knows how
lost
long.
he lost his mind a long ass time ago. And
Yeah,
again, for me, that's why I know I keep bringing it like to not count him out, but he's done some very evil fucking things through the years.
yeah,
And prior to that, you had already put your mother in the hospital.
yeah,
That's alarming.
yes,
And then for mom to speak up and say, if something was to ever happen to me, definitely look at my kids. So it'll never get solved because if that's the case, after you had all of that, you would have investigated more. It would have been, tight alibis. I mean, granted, it's hard to keep up what was going on at the scale, but cool. And what the fuck was Chantel's alibi? That
yeah.
makes my thing like it was never like,
She
girl, where was you at?
she never gave a concrete alibi. She just said it wasn't me.
Yeah, that alone lets me know that they don't really care. It's like,
Yeah.
cool, we can pinpoint the daughter, but since we don't have concrete evidence, this is what it was. Well, I don't recall them ever saying she had an alibi to really let her off the hook. It's just the
No.
point that they don't really have anything. There's no
Now she did say she thought it was John, but then she also doubled back on that and said she don't know who did it and she also don't care.
but she knew that there was a frying pan involved.
Yeah, she knew it was a frying pan involved. Out of everything, who like so unless your mama just religiously keeps this skillet on the stove at all times, how would you know it was missing?
Yes. And even if she did know, if the hate was so strong for your mom because of the fact that she knows she had this history of sleeping with your man, and if I already got a history of it, Chantel probably follow her good man over there to the house that night,
Mm,
unknowing, caught them in the act one day, a big argument. So again, I don't think this was
yeah.
a one person ordeal. Um,
But then why attack the mama if your man is willingly going over there? Why not attack
she
him?
already because she had a history of doing this. So at this point, it's
Mm,
you just don't like me for whatever reason. But it's like, what? How
reopening
do you
old
hate me? So,
wounds.
how
Mm,
was it that you hate me so much? Again, this was the 90s. We weren't really mental health definitely wasn't a thing. We weren't talking about what the effect that could have had on Chantel after the fact that her mama had already put her through this shit.
yeah.
There was obviously some things going on in that home that was leaving those kids unpeaced. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Tori he used to be at our house all the time. Maybe that's just why I always just saw him like another uncle. He was always there, but maybe whatever he had going on at home never made him want to be there.
To be
'Cause
at
even after
home.
he came into
Exactly.
all that money and stuff, like, he was still around all the time, but I didn't really care to try to ask him about his home life, I just was
Right.
like, "Get the hell." I just wanted him to I was glad when
Just
him and
get
my
out of
uncle would
my
leave the house.
house.
Yeah, like, I was just glad when him and my uncle was going to go through stuff,
Yeah.
but it is crazy because I just you as you grow up and you learn so much about people and, honestly, it's kind of the same thing about some of the people that we've gone to school with and we grew up with it to see them go off into doing crazy ass crimes, molesting kids, ending up in jail for,
Yeah.
this and that. It's crazy. Just because you never know people.
Right.
You just never know what people, nor do you know what they're going through. And so this is a very difficult case. I'm not gonna say difficult, but it's a different case because it it doesn't it's not warranted. I don't wish death on anyone, but to inflict this much pain on your kids for them to even be a suspect,
Right.
to be suspects in your murder, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll never. I don't think that this case will ever get solved.
Mm-mm.
Not unless somebody was to just come up and say it. Then I think even now, if John was to speak up and say, "Hey, I did this," he's not going to be credible.
Right. Given his history over the last 28 years, he's no longer a credible witness. So it really don't matter what he say, honestly. But yeah, to wrap this up, that is insane. And I do not think this will be solved. Nope.
Let's
Not
see.
by any stretch of the imagination.
When people say, "Oh, well, these things are impossible," people don't really go through this. People really go through this type of shit with their families.
Oh,
And I say that I think we as black people, we do a good job of we keep it at home because we don't want the judgment from the outside world of what's going on. But we know white people could go through this same type of shit all the time. Hell, you got family members sleeping with each other. You
mm,
have the daughter sleeping with the mother's husband. Because usually, honestly, in white people, it's the other way around. The
right.
daughter is sleeping with the mama's husband, type of ordeal. And so I just think that it's a very unfortunate situation because nobody deserves none of this shit. Honestly, nobody in this
Yeah.
situation deserved none of it. The mother didn't deserve to lose her life. However, the daughter didn't deserve to have to be watching her man around her mama either.
Yeah, the trauma of all of that, and then again, like you said, we don't have any idea what was going on in their home. No idea.
Because what Toriano was 17, and I want to say Chantel was like what 28 or something at the time, like she was in her
She
20s.
she was a grown woman. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like, well, yeah, because obviously she had been married twice.
Right.
Like, so yeah, like we don't know what they went through growing up because if Tori had already went to putting hands on his mama 2 years before this even happened,
Yeah.
and she had already like, what the fuck was going on? As we wrap up, and I'm just not the most religious person. I'm not wouldn't consider myself to be atheist, but I just don't get into a lot of organized religion or get into a lot of these things because some of these people be some of the fucking craziest people. Like doing like some of these things of like casting and doing all this judging of other people and like you can sweep your own front door and see what you got going on because
Right.
it's just insane. And so honestly, I don't feel bad for anybody in this case. Like not in
Because
the
it was
sense of like
so much going on.
it was, and it's like the anger. I think the anger of it all is just it's got everybody so much to the point that I don't care, or they're just so angry at her that it's like, well, she's gone. It's not my problem.
Uh,
Toriano got his own things going on, and like, yeah, I think that they're saying like, oh, we want to be able to give him an answer, and I'm just like, for what? He don't give a fuck. That man spent up that $80,000 and went on to ruin several other people's fucking lives, and
yeah.
so I I don't think it ever gets solved. And honestly, I don't think that people just really truly don't care if it gets solved or not because it just seems
Right.
like drama is an entertaining case,
Yeah.
and that's it.
It's a catchy clickbait headline.
Yeah, for white people, it's an example of them trying to say that we are trash because of shit like this. And so it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because the whole honor thy mother and thy father thing is a thing that Christians run into the ground. And then when stuff like this happens, what are you left to do?
Where did it go? Right. Right. But whew, That one was a doozy. That one was really heavy, very lot of layers to that case for real, for real.
Yes.
A
But
lot of
next time we go
unanswered questions.
next case, we'll have to keep it a little light. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
Nah, no.
So
Yeah, but I mean, granted, I think this was more of a I think it was a hard case, and I'm glad that we were able to talk about it because not every case is gonna have this, "Oh, well, let's come together moment," and, this was a great thing. Some of these cases are just what they is, like, it's a shitty situation for everybody
yeah,
involved, but if anything, it brings awareness to how sloppy Fort Wayne Police Department is when it comes to investigating shit, if you ask me,
yeah.
because all these years later, y'all let these folks come in here and run circles around y'all in this investigation,
Yeah,
and
on a TV show, they're not even investigators or detectives.
okay? Because literally all they did was come in, ask a few questions, piece back what y'all did, got some granted, 28 years later, some things may change, but come on now. Big
Yeah.
differences in the time that the state and that whole ordeal and the whole frying pan thing, and then Laura Chantel with this fake ass crying. Girl, you can't say that you want the lady to be rotting in hell in one breath and then the next second you crying, talking about something this
Be
shouldn't happen to nobody.
boo-hooing, like, acting so
So,
extra distraught, like, yeah, it don't work like that. But, I mean, I guess 2 things can be true at once, but I just don't buy it. I didn't buy the crocodile tears one bit.
she could have kept them. She
Yeah.
could have kept them just like she could have kept it to herself about anything about that frying pan.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm honestly I'm over Miss Parker's story.
Yeah. 'Cause it's just so like, my brain could keep going on and on and on forever and ever because it's just like I said, so many unanswered questions, so many plot holes and loops where it coulda been, woulda been, shoulda been.
Yeah, I just think that it's important to just give an example of sometimes all these cases just are not going to have a definite answer, not a
Yeah,
definite on one person's side, and everything just is always not so cut and dry. And in this case, it's just too many variables,
right.
and a city and state that doesn't really care about us.
Yeah.
I, I will say this: I hope that the kids of Toriano, because he does have kids, and they may grow up and learn about these things in the future. So I hope things like this don't trickle down to them wondering and worry about how they already have to deal with these things in their death. I hope the best for the descendants of Beverly Parker, as far as her grandkids and
Her
anything of that
grandchildren.
nature. Because
Mhm.
because it's one thing to have a family history, but when this is your family history, and
Right.
this is what you have to look at, like it causes a lot. And so I, that's all I can do. That's the only people I really feel bad for in this case is the fact that these
Mm.
grandkids of theirs have to grow up and learn of these things of what kind of person that their grandmother was. But maybe it'll give them a little clarity as to why their parents are the way that they are. But,
Best
um,
case scenario.
I all I can say is just pay attention to those around you that are going through some things, recognize the signs, and be careful
Yeah.
because you truly don't know people. Especially be careful about who you have around your kids. The man has done some crazy things throughout the year, and to say maybe this sent him off the deep end, but you also just don't get that evil out of nowhere.
Right. Right.
Um,
But all right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in to Murderous Friends. We want to invite you to our social media pages. We do have a YouTube, Murderous Friends, and Facebook and TikTok as well, all the same name, Murderous Friends.
subscribe, follow,
Subscribe, follow, do all of
comment, like,
the do all of the social media things because
suggest.
yes, you can suggest cases on any of the platforms in the comments on YouTube, in the comments on TikTok, or right on the Facebook page. We want to hear your case suggestions. We want to talk about what y'all want to hear about.
Everything. But yeah,
Mm.
once again, welcome to Murderous Friend. And please do not be out here sleeping with your family members,
Please,
spouses, and things. Because
please, if it's the last thing you do.